大家好，非常感谢大家今日的参与。近日来，台湾的疫情愈加严峻，在美国的如父上师心系天下的一切有情，包含台湾的弟子，在这样的疫情严峻的情况之下，特别应援了这一次的线上开示，并且希望借此机会来勉励台湾的弟子。让我们用正确的知见来面对这场疫情，并且给予线上的禅修引导，同时也带我们如何带领我们了解如何在疫情下实修。接下来我们要开始皈依发心，念皈依发心文。于我声称之怨敌，害我之魔障，以诸障碍解脱、障碍成佛者，以其为主，乃至等虚空一切慈母有情，愿皆具足安乐，远离痛苦，速得无上圆满正等珍贵菩提果。是故愿我乃至成佛间，生与意皆勤与善；愿我乃至尽形寿，生与意皆勤与善；愿我得自今日起，生与意皆勤与善。诸佛正法众中尊，直至菩提果归依。我以施等诸福德，为利众生愿成佛。愿一切虚空。愿等虚空一切慈母有情众生，皆具乐极乐因；愿其皆离苦集苦因；愿其不离无苦妙乐；愿其皆得助以远离爱憎之平等舍。依据所有众生愿，心事个别之所依，其行转动大小乘，共同宗趣之法轮。
tani toma tajaka jobe tani chudo sama tashi delekcho ni tani tama tani musu doma thong vesimba jiboso tani yang nerok ma to ba sepje de doma thong na o tang ni doma thong thong de nemre min thong ba do sam yo re nerok to ba sepje ta fe na toni tang ni jinga na ne so na o da yo ma re 천도와요 파차와요 말해서 하고서 그래 대니발아들이 대화다 동네게 제발 정말 요리
First, to all the Dharma friends who are following us on the live stream, I would like to say Dashi Delek. I'm happy to see all of your faces today. And so sentient beings who don't realize the nature of things, they think that now I'm seeing his face, but then when his face is not here, I'm not seeing him. But then sentient beings who realize the nature of things and who abide in a state of emptiness and compassion, they can understand that we actually are beyond meeting and parting. And so because of that, there is actually a big difference of happiness and suffering between these two kinds of beings.
tene sanji tupa krishan kanze tene mulur mboche tene jene ijega nang jene mulur mboche kare soko yori dila tene mulur mboche la tene tene sanji ka tene bar mboche jane sangan choka semur mboche len soko yori le jibde hako yori mulur mboche tobla kare yo mulur mboche to le jibde hako yori le jibde kare dila 대화가 just 하고 대화가 just 상태리스 동네 just 다지리스 대하고 요리 대하고 상태를 레좀 제시바지 대시성사는 레좀 제시성사는 잠불 이렇게 동네 답지 생기 걔네 지역에서 저 봤던 게 대화도 동네 일에 요리지 동네 just 강례에 저하마고는 동네 저랑 좋고 요리 tene tere dongi jumje shi soksana David Jokangima Rangator, something Dr. Zobago, the great jet dancing that even you know what the Rashoka Pangretri, Cemetery Sipayo, Lali Sabdiman and Somanagi, Donna come to Jolam Chester, said they got the Rashi. Cemetery, oh, so someone you know about the doing juries, deep outside Yachi, Yasaman Dwar Dolan, Miss Thompson, Tamro Yoris. 사운드까지 도성제거리 사운드들이 매도 사운드한테 나다 뭐야 보자 사운드까지들이 상속생의 사운드 속적제거리 대외들이 사운드 상속생들이 사운드 속적제 특성은 나버리는 동네 요랑 화로 동네 매스 동네 요 말이 별에서 들이 착거리 대외 나다 상속생의 중적으로 somba Deva sim Robert Doma mean check for the Robert Dover Septi subject Doma mean check yours. Can't read it. Deva subject with the Tiba in the Kuta. Taji Teba de Deva Jones Saji Temba S. Saji Teba carried. Oh, Saji the Sancho Secretary were. Sasaji Tema, Nan Saji Tema, Sawan Saji Tema, Sawan Saji Temati, don't know with Temba, Nan Saji Temati, Sancho Secretary. They have got an entry, don't learn what to go through your head.
So in this world, this human world is really a Nirmanakaya Pure Land, and of the four states of taking birth, we have taken birth as precious human beings, and as precious human beings we have encountered the precious teachings of the Buddha, and through that we are able to find the precious bodhicitta, and we are able to understand karma. So a precious human being can understand karma. And what is that? It is that you understand what is the cause of happiness, which is love. And you understand what is the cause of suffering, which is self-grasping. So if you know karma, then you know that all the suffering in this world, of all the sentient beings in the four states of birth, comes from their actions. And all beings experience happiness and suffering for this reason. Someone who doesn't understand karma and doesn't understand the cause of suffering, they will actually only create the causes of suffering. If you understand karma, you will be able to find happiness and create the causes of happiness, which is love and patience. If you understand the cause of suffering, that is self-grasping, you know that from self-grasping the afflictive emotions arise, so you're able to give them up. You're able to be mindful and careful, according to the 37 Bodhisattva practices, where it says, in brief, at all times, look at the state of your mind. So when an afflictive emotion arises, then you would immediately see, oh, I'm afflicted, this is the cause of suffering. And if I follow it, then I keep continuing, I'm placing karmic imprints into my mind. And as a result, in the future, I will continue to wander in the 6 realms of samsara, or the 3 lower realms. So it is important to be careful while we are still creating the seeds. So it is just like protecting the seed of a flower. We need to protect the seed of bodhicitta. And if you're able to protect your own bodhicitta, then even though there is a lot of suffering in the world, such a person, you then will not suffer. In the Bodhicharyavatara text, it says, the precious Buddha's teachings are the source of all benefit and the medicine for all suffering. There's only one medicine for all the beings in the 6 realms, and that is the precious bodhicitta. So there is an outer, inner, and a secret aspect to the Buddha's teachings. So the secret aspect refers to the ultimate truth, and the inner aspect of the Buddha's teachings, that is the precious bodhicitta. And so if you just understand that, then actually your precious human body, your precious human life really has become useful, has become meaningful.
나타단디 내 철대 참미 고도 영어 제들이 들이디 네 등계는 거고 탑 제베체들이 참미 고요 얼마니 내 철십은 강하게 있나 이 말을 이래 삼노다나 파 시절 유체메바 들이 자트 빠지더니 반삼메바 시어요래지 저 끼어라 반삼메바 끼어요래지 대체식 콜로지는 사실 가지는 선거리 대상 것은 따따따 사게 되는데 무슨 시해요래지 통치지 저거요래지 통치지 저 여덟 몇 시해요지 솔직히 하고요 말이지 시해요 말이지 장가 시해요 말이지 제부 장가에 시해요 말이지 쇼 장가에 솔직히 시해요 말이지 그 같이 그 가게 가려 매일 공리들이 약사장장 시들이 독사장장 공들이 제자고지 이거는 대중에서 공투고 말이 대사지 되겠더니 세고에 놀러 세고 능이도 매도 걸마서 능이 매바통 마트로 내 책들 매래서가 대토고요 말이 내 설다 싹고 제 맞에 뒤에 설면이 제시 콜로 주제 매반다가 레지
And so nowadays there's a lot of suffering in the world, and we can see it directly. Everyone is aware of that, and many people speak about, so many people have died from this disease. And so everybody speaks about this now because there is this disease spreading. And so what most ordinary people are doing is they're trying to avoid the suffering that's already ripened. A person who understands the nature of things, they actually will not only now think about it, but each and every day, always anyways, they will think about that. What they think about is that actually beings always die, uninterruptedly. Beings are born and beings die. It is so actually continuously, and like an ever-turning wheel. The Buddha always spoke about that. For example, just like the pulse, our heartbeat, as our heart beats, with each heartbeat, somebody is born, somebody dies non-stop. It is just that now we are becoming aware of that because of the disease, the pandemic. Now we can see it, and now everyone talks about it. But normally nobody talks about it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't always happen. It happens all the time, uninterruptedly. Nothing really has changed in this regard, actually. So it is just that normally no one tells us the numbers of how many people are born and the numbers of how many people have died. And also, even on top of that, often this kind of information is hidden in the numbers. People are hiding the numbers, and sometimes people are only saying the good things. I'm trying to hide the bad things that actually happen. But ultimately, no one can really hide what's actually happening, because we might temporarily be able to hide suffering, but ultimately through hiding it, we cannot actually eliminate it. Through words, we cannot actually eliminate it. And so in any case, we need to understand that even though now we all think that suddenly there is so much death, actually birth and death happens uninterruptedly all the time. So it is not just now.
대를 뛰는 자당 가서 대서 레드레 시바탄지가 롭소래야 요래 대를 뛰니 잡을래 되는 대타가 되는데 차만 영화처럼 냠대 연거도 왜 영어 말이 나타 사실은 너무 내용을 같이 너무 싸우는 망고 요래 너무 여봐서 이제 그 요래 대 가리가 속에서 저거 제발이지 저거 제발이나 저거 제발가서 안게 랑게 접대가 통일 라리송 접대서나 너무 싸우는 용이 요래지 너무 영능 동의지 되어리 저털이 되고 요래 베리들이 무서워나 또 하나는 로제 쳐대래 이런 좀 하나는 어떤 가지 집어서 레지 누가 다 사서 레지 죽이 시사를 레지 저도 몇 명이 사서 레지 로다도 레지 대라고 하고서 다다는 말하면 좀 하나는 좀 가지 누구 말이지 좀 하나는 집어서 살려고 요래 베티다 그래 대탑에서 석을 가르게 되는 사제 가르게 사제시바 거리 시락 랑게 당진이 말을 봐도 상네 생활을 아시잖아 랩들이 내리 시합도 바로도 서발라고 해 사지 시합도 바로도 서면 사지가리 라도 나지 매바 하고 요래시 같이 대하 뭐더니 하자 대하고 하자 용용래 같이 나지 매마 마시는데 나지 통값을 때다 삼니게서 주바서 거래시 저 대래시 사지가 대화도 대고 주택 봐도 요 말해시 주택 나고 야 아시 가리 사바레시 사바세메레시 동네 저쪽 땅거리시 동네 저쪽 나오냐 봐데레시 그래서 나 매방 안 되게 요리 사지 책이 시안에 동네 말도 나게 노래 저 저거 사지 이미 세면 총수만 보소 말해 뒤 주제 무슨도 찬사사단 잡을 치망시의 동네 연구 요리 때 가리들 주제 미시바 샤다 뒤 중에 저래 놓아서는 저들 아미기 연구 요리시 매도 나고 사고도 매도 나고 살아 그래. 때로 때는 다 동네들 가면 레주들라 저 이치체로 줘. 레주들 걸로 삼어 동시 봐. 대도 차고 그래. 또 라사라 고고 요래스.
And so all of us, we are people who have some understanding of karma, and therefore we are able to take what is happening as a teaching, a lesson to us. So there is all this suffering now in the world, but then at the same time, it doesn't actually happen to everyone. Many people suffer a lot, but there are some people who are not affected at all, who don't suffer at all. And why is that? It's because there is a difference in the cause. So if one is able to protect and safeguard one's, one's actions, one's karma, then some people do not experience any suffering at all. And even if they encounter suffering, they are able to transform this into happiness. For example, I myself spent 20 years in prison, but this time I felt I'm really happy. And actually I felt this is a place where I can purify my negative karma. And a place where I can learn about karma, a place where I can equalize happiness and suffering. So it was like a school for me. This is how I saw it. And also now sometimes when I visit prisons, I tell the inmates that this is not a bad thing. Actually, it's almost you're staying in a hotel. So this knowledge, whose kindness is that? Is the Buddha's kindness and the Buddha's wisdom. Through the Buddha's wisdom, the Buddha had purified the ignorance of self-grasping and has realized the nature of his mind, which is what we call the perfection of wisdom. So what is it that the Buddha had understood? The Buddha had realized that self and other are indivisible, are non-dual. So there's only very few people who actually realize that. And most people don't realize that, and they perceive a duality of self and other. And all those who perceive a duality, they must practice love and compassion and patience first, because that is the cause for happiness. So the Buddha told us there's only one cause that leads to happiness. Protect it. What is that one cause? It is immeasurable love. And he said, there's only one cause of suffering, give it up. And that is the clinging to the self, the me. The Buddha said that you are believing in a self, the existence of a self that does not actually exist. And also it is said, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. The perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So now we see the actual ripening of karma in this world. And most people in this world right now experience a lot of suffering. And why is that? It is because negative karma is ripening. It is because no one really understands. The problem is that no one really understands karma. And so, therefore, if the cause is created, then naturally a corresponding result will ripen. It is just like if you have the seed of a black flower, then a black flower will grow from that. So if you reflect in this way, then your trust in karma will increase more and more, and you will be able to really think about or consider karma in all of your actions. And so for this reason, this circumstance we're in now really is a great lesson, a great teaching on karma to us. So this is how you should understand the present circumstance.
대다다 나쪽에 다 다다 진짜는 잡을 동네 되는 잡을 집어줘서 그런 거 요리 된 말이 잡을 동네 지체 매바 연구 요리 대다 동네 남아서 대마친 것도 다다 저번에 진짜 뭐 다주 공과 집어나서 점지에 책상을 하서 이죠 너무 뭐 독들은 가족들이 가리는 동네 지체 매바 맞다 들어오냐도 요리 도로도 그 가리 독상로 땅은 도리도 삼지 맞춰버려 샘제 찍바래 얘는 동의에 때도 초가때도 쪼고 왔다 그래서 절통도 없이 그래도 점제시 봐도 싫어 근데 맥니 요래 그 돈다고 대마트는 다 사람들 맥선을 돈다고 대만 있으면 말이야 나진이 매하고 맥선 잘 20에 끼지 20에 끼지 나진이 매하고 다 되래 20에 끼지 다 맥니 점제로 하면 봐 내가 저 상태에 봐. 그 끼안에 체력하게 내 값단 토리지. 내 값 토리게 되와 도봐. 타속 사제 고막도와 저 상태에서. 그 루바가 다고 야고리지. 너게 저 집어서 나리지. 그 저치소자 잡는 매발도 나요 말이지. 얘나고 삼바도 삼바다 hin게 이렇게 거셔로 그러지. 차로면다 생군 차로 그러지. 대 상무도 뒤집에서 상무 있었다 땅이 따뜻한 습지도 매치죠. 어때 저리스 코 레집이 코를 레서 받들이 레트 말도 사바리 다디 쪽으로 때려 사바다 이제 됐어요. 너가 했지 답이라. 데르티는 소소 좀제 시체도 사바다 이제 됐어요. 등이 매번 미시이나 따뜻한 좀제 그랬지. 사바다 이제 가고 게래리 라그 삼체를 내래. 또 삼체를 지키세요. 삼체가 내버려 소소를 아니라 내가 통제해 놓나. 이제 석이 가르리 삼체가 가르리. 삼체가 가르리 봐 석이 시성. 사지 좀 니들 시성. 내가 당신 용원에 산축선 조를 못해서 양도양도 뒤섬지 산지에 담도 나올 때 삼체를 다음에 잡을 등인데 따오는 말 강에 가면 너가 가르리. 다 산축선 가까이면 있어. 예를 들어 나는 상태를 따보자. 예를 들어 인탑을 다 사바를 이제 보면 대기형 라고 다니지. 손으로 쳐도 그래. 이 싸움은 이제 시성산하더니 뜨네 땅들이 다다 잡을 그 등에 사람이 요fin 탑지게. 그것도 찍지나 다다 등에 기본 연구를 내 상도 요래지. 내 사과대 이제 무지 상도 요래지. 내 상도 요래지. 배는 인성스럽게 배 독자를 저거 요래지. 민성스럽게 네 니멍 독성 같으니 니멍 독성을 내 장사를 했어. 짝지 제사라고 그래. 민강 따버리 내 주제 시소는 냐와대 시당 짝지 제사를 했지. 세나대 여라 짝지 제사를 했지. 도저 짝지 제사를 했지. 민성스럽 대게 민성스럽 대레대 노차 센나 여다 해당성 센나 여다 해당성 레드 상도 없이 락상 요거 상도 그래 너네 찾아와 그랬다가 탐체 대화데 민성성 대상처럼 민강다버리 저 정말 매봐 또 소소로 동네들 레상도 여상들 그래 동네들 도보로 쳤잖아 들이 좀 궁금해 별로 소소하다 나타가 동네용나 나그랑 레사 차와래 레사다 상도 요리 디습지 탐지를 했다 동네 요리 삼삼지치는 그래도 그 정도로 같이 내다 듣고요 다도 그래 내도 샘플 주요래 다고 샘플 주요래 와도 샘플 다고 그래 배제다 살로탄 거랬어.
And so nowadays, it appears to us that there's a lot of suffering in the world. And so people think that it's just now, this is the suffering in the world. But this is not true, because there's always suffering in the world, uninterruptedly. It's not just now. There's all kinds of different suffering. And Lord Jigten Sumgön said in the Gongchik, cause and effect is the natural manifestation of one's moment-to-moment thoughts. So through the 6 afflictive emotions, we create endless, all kinds of forms of suffering. So, for example, in this world now, we have humans and animals living together. when you think about the suffering of the animals, it is really incredible. So when you really become aware of their suffering, you see that although the basis of our mind, the nature of our mind is the same, then still they need to live like that and they need to suffer like that. And that is because of karma. And so this is what you need to first understand. And when you understand that, it is like having two eyes open. The eyes, when you understand karma, it is like having two eyes wide open. And then when you see the ultimate truth, it's like having three eyes. That's why the deities have three eyes. The third eye represents the seeing of the non-dual nature of self and other. We call it the wisdom eye of the deities. So it's a sign of having realized non-duality. So, but first we need to realize the truth of karma, the infallibility of karma. And so that is that you recognize that the only cause of happiness is love. It will lead to happy states of existence temporarily in all future lives, and it will ultimately lead to enlightenment. So therefore, hold on to love. And then you will also understand, if you understand karma, that there is only one cause of suffering, and that is self-grasping. And nothing can really destroy self-grasping, not even a nuclear bomb. But love can destroy it. It melts it, just like an ice block. So think about karma very carefully. For example, when you see a suffering sentient being, recognize there is a cause for that. So they have done something, like an animal, for example, through ignorance and self-grasping. And so therefore, because they suffer, they are an object of love and compassion. So this is how you should see all those who suffer. And in this way, your understanding in karma, your trust in karma, and also your love and your compassion will increase. And then when you see a sentient being who suffers, so when you see a being who suffers, your trust in love increases. And when you see there is happiness, then think that this is the result of love. Or if you experience even the slightest happiness, whose kindness is that? It's the kindness of love. And who realized that? It was the Buddha. The Buddha said in various occasions that this is the source of all happiness. It is the precious bodhicitta. We hear it again and again. The precious bodhicitta is the precious jewel of all the Buddhas after 3 times. So even though there is a lot of suffering in the world, you will still be able to be happy if you understand that. Why? Because of bodhicitta. And so therefore hold on to it, hold on to love. Cultivate love and compassion for others. That will diminish your own self-grasping and increase your own merit. So thinking in these 2 ways of thinking about it from the ultimate and relative perspective. Now at the time where sentient beings are suffering, when you see a lot of suffering around you, then you could think that on the one hand, maybe, of course, they are suffering, but also on the other hand, they are purifying negative karma. And we must purify our karma. People normally consider the 3 lower realms as something negative. But actually, the lower realms are the place where we can purify the karma created by the 3 poisons. So it is like a place where we get a surgery done, or like a hospital. So if you understand karma, then you will actually see hell, for example, as a surgical facility, a surgical hospital for anger. Or you will see the hungry spirit realm as a surgical facility for greed. And you will see the animal realm as a surgical facility of ignorance. So in this way, you will see the lower realms really like a hospital that purifies our negative karma. Such as the greed of the hungry spirits and the hatred of the hell beings and the ignorance of the animals. And through the intensity of suffering, the karma is actually quickly purified. So therefore, see the lower realms, the 3 lower realms, like a hospital. If you see it that way, then you will also not be so afraid of suffering. And then when you encounter suffering, think that this is good, I am purifying my negative karma. Then actually suffering becomes your friend. And when suffering is your friend, then there's really no not really any basis for the experience of suffering. So when you suffer, think that this sickness or this suffering is my karma. I must purify it. And also, all sentient beings experience such suffering. So cultivate love and compassion for them. So in this way, actually, if you think in this way, then some people are even able to heal from their disease, from their illness. It's because the disease itself is also created by the mind. And it's really the mind that must heal, that must be cured from the sickness of the afflictions. So in these circumstances, you should think in this way.
담조 쪽에 된ber 물을 못 제지 가시금 됐다는 다 물이 토바토도 될라고도래 말이지 잠래 레주 사바 니네 안도만이 상상들이 담조 뜻이니까 토든데 나인 코를 돌려줘서 니다치도 예와면 니 생고 봐서 니 거래지 삼로 똥 거래지 레주 베트는 삼로 똥 거래지 땅로 똥이 내가 저 사마한테 이제 그저 오고 그랬어. 너네 이제 실력 빵한테 라왕리 저거 롱바리 말이 너네 싸가는 매 말이지. 너네 서도 너네 라랑 좀 가지. 내가야 라랑 좀 거다 때다가 타지래. 너네 또 다다다 그래서 사마기 저땅 나고 사지 봐야지. 저 나고하시 봐야지. 이직장 말이. 난 세군데 땅들라 삼모 땅에. 너네 세군 땅은 내로 실내더니 데르티는 세도 코르데 탐지 이제 사이바 하고 데와다 데베 저 가르마 동네 저 강마 데트로 랑 드바이바 하고 들레 데는 내lok도 나 티바고는 매서 거친 어치라 장가서 랑 생고 내lok도 시바 데르 상제 데르다 서상제데 가브레 상제데 시랍고 뭐래 최대 상민지 뭐래 오 드리 세는 상민지요 요바테 실에 상민제 싸치 보이고 하고는 따줄 상민지를 어때면 게들라고 그러지 게들 가르치 저 밑에 줄랑 잡으러 사바사보서 요래지 데이터도 하고 꼰조서도 라줄 타거도 없이 저 라줄 창토밖에 같이 저 가리 땅에 삼대 공고 삼대도 딱 보자고 그러면 뛰어처럼 탈출을 내면 저 삼대 이상 다 삼대에서 조각을 딱 보자야 동대하고서 들이들 멀리 돌고 주바래 대부분들이 따뜻한 랑지 dum게 마시는 라왕 미베 등엘레 송선들이 가가네 니바사알 미베 맞으더니 참포라 들이도게 가도 빼대다고 사고요래 대 말이 저베 말이지 너무 저 랑을 더블지 내가 저 랑을 더블지 랑을 더 촉과 대하고 여기 제보요래 되니 대는다 들이 직대서 보고 소네들이 레좀데라 미시키자 취사 미저 가다서 버다서 취지마다 저를 레좀 데다 하고서는 추사대 하고래지 하고로들이 동단도 좀 돼 동반이서 그랬대 동반이 다음에만 마도 왔다 동반이는 저거 말이 좀돼 기침을 좀돼는 인피 적사지 인미로는 동성 들이 내가 또지 저 통한데 삼대가들이 상 저거 당시 대사로 딴 거래지 너희 또지 지금 나한테는 유목을 내리래지 랑그 다디는 유목을 내래지 그럼 매직 리바 찍장면 주 세요는 가다가 뭐 조지는 성 빼대다 하잖아 오 제레사 말이지 다다 무슨 이 바카는 매장 대다와 살면서 좀 걸어 살면 따는 들이 되게 남지들이 총들로 그래 매들로 말이지 들이 때려도 그러면 다들 이는 상유제 들이 때려 다들 다 동네미는 저거요 그래 동네 싸와들이 타는 거래 너는 싸워도 나한테는 탈고 그래 다음에 봐라 나도 정말 주로도 시지도 다 값들들이 레접에 가르쳐버리지 주베 거라 셔도 살면서는 동네랑 그지 요리지 저때도 소지 말이지 라고 줄이 세상다 타도 요지 말이지 오 때마빵은 양도 망봐라 생코는 제시요 말이지 대비해서 주베 가르쳐 말이지 사지 조금 막 덤렸다 다 때문에 맡아버리 주베 살면 맡아나 너희 샤는 거지 저강을 뛴대서 샤는 거래 내가 주베리 지체 못 제니 그때다 너네 탐지게 라래 작은 요리지 보도들이 제 샤리에 동네는 좋을 말에 오 내가 믿겠다 그래서 그래서 나와 시왔다게 다 대도 잡으면 대도래지 대도들 삼지 조래지 들이 알아서 도들이 내 저때 하고는 삼때다 보자 기체보래 사족선 조를 보지 다 사족선 용 띵지 내가 좀데 용 사족선 거를 했어 너무 좀데 용 나는 뉴모 되지 대체 소치 기체모요래 들이 대르티네 대다다 무서 그런 용에서 기억하려나 식수니가 달리고 나 같이 체험하는 토미나 제티 좀 좁지 다 같이 이차선을 때 나한테 누가 다 거래서 대들이 땅도로 도로라서 셔선로 땅도로 요래서 송들이 쪽으로들이 제일이 봐요 요래서 대회들이 다다다 내 쪽으로 오면 또다 전부 요래 들이 참에 됐다고 싸우는 땅에 참아지라는 게 탈tok 대비절을 주고 요래서 동네다 대비절 조요레스 동네다 약보레스 대로서 못한 나들이 계속 그 모양도 조요레스
And so of the 6 realms of samsara, we have now found a precious human body. We say that the precious human body is endowed with 18 qualities. And so some people say that how is this a precious human body when there is so much suffering in the world? So it doesn't really seem that we have found a precious human body. But don't think about it that way, because actually it is that this world where we are born as human beings is like a crossroads. It is like a crossroads of going up and down. The human body is the vessel that can help us transcend suffering, samsara. It is said that in the 37 practices that through the human ship of leisure and fortune, strive to become liberated from samsara by listening, reflecting, and meditating day and night. So you have to listen, you have to learn, you have to reflect. What you reflect on is karma. You reflect on love and compassion being the cause of happiness. You think that this is what I need to bring with me. You reflect on the cause of suffering and think that this is what I need to abandon. So this is actually a place where you can attain freedom. You can create freedom yourself. So it is not that you will find a place in this world where there is no suffering at all. There will be suffering. But who created this suffering? It is oneself. And also you created your own happiness. So make up your mind that this is how things are. And so really this is how all Buddhists reflect, and in no other way. Buddhism means literally to look inside the mind. We look at the mind and try to see its nature. When you see the nature of the mind, you understand that this very mind is the basis, the root of all of samsara and nirvana. And so then you realize that what is the cause of happiness and what is the cause of suffering. And you realize that it is up to me. I can create it. I can create happiness and abandon suffering. So all of these practices are nothing but a method to realize the nature of the mind. And so that's why Longchen Rabcham had said that aside from realizing the nature of the mind, there is no higher learning than that. So that is really what you need to learn. And so the one who had realized the nature of the mind was the Buddha. And the outer external Buddha, his essence was wisdom. His mind was a wisdom mind. The Buddha is wisdom. And the essence of the Dharma is love and compassion. So someone who understands how precious love and compassion is and who cultivates it, such a person we call a Sangha. A Sangha is someone with excellent conduct. And so this is how the 3 jewels are actually complete within your own mind. So it is important that you recognize that. So when you recognize that, you will think that by all means, I must cultivate love and compassion. I need that in all my future lifetimes. That is my only cause of happiness. I must protect it with patience. If you just understand this, then your precious human existence will really have become meaningful. If you don't understand karma, then you will not be able to think in this way, and then you will think that I haven't done anything wrong, there's nothing I did, and still suffering comes my way. I have no control over it. For example, a person who hasn't done anything wrong is put into prison and think that that's unjust, that's unfair. But actually no, because they have already created their own karma in the past. We have created our own happiness and our own suffering. So it's important to understand that, because then you know that I can actually create it all myself. It's all in my hands. And that is why Jigten Sumgön also had said, and if one really gains certainty in the workings of karma, then all kind of views of like speaking about the ultimate and so on, it all becomes a lie. So what's important is to understand is the root of the Dharma, which is the understanding of karma on the relative level, and ultimately it is taught that karma is empty. But however, what this quote by Jigten Sumgön refers to is that until we have realized that there is no self, nothing will just be empty. We can't just talk about emptiness. So that's why it is important to understand karma. And so it is also said in the 37 practices that the perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So in this way, when you think in this way, then you will be able to see that as your real friend. That is what you need to cultivate. And then when you experience suffering, you will immediately recognize this is because of my own self-grasping and the afflictive emotions. It is something I have created myself. For example, even if someone would kill you, even though you haven't done anything wrong, you would think that this purifies my negative karma. Like it is said, even if someone were to cut off your head, even though you haven't done anything wrong, and so forth. So even though now you might not have done anything wrong, if you understand karma, then this karma actually will become purified. And of course, even though we purify karma and the experience of suffering diminishes, it will not just disappear. But the outer circumstance will not disappear. But through this understanding, actually, you can find happiness in your mind. It is really when you don't think about yourself, but when you cultivate love and compassion for others, then you become liberated, because liberation means to be liberated from self-grasping, a self that does not actually exist. So I hope that my Dharma friends will understand that and consider karma as very important, and reflect on karma very carefully and recognize I have created my own suffering. For example, and now there still is so much jealousy in my mind. There still is so much anger in my mind. If I don't give it up now, then again and again in the future, I will continue to wander in samsara, because the mind cannot die. It's really important that you understand that. So when you understand karma, then you will see things in this way. But if you do not understand karma, then you will continuously suffering will appear to you, because the cause will continue to create the cause, and for as long as you create the cause, there will always be suffering. So when you reflect in this way, your trust in karma increases. When you suffer, think that is good, I'm purifying my negative karma. And then it may even seem like there is no real suffering. So that is an important point to understand, that love and compassion is your cause of happiness, and that you protect it with patience. So think again and again about the qualities of bodhicitta, even when you experience the slightest happiness. When you experience the slightest suffering, think about the faults of self-grasping and the afflictive emotions. It's important to recognize that. And so then in whatever you do with body, speech, and mind, it will become virtues. And so now we, for example, benefit those who have died and those who are alive, for example, through liberation by touching or hearing and so on. And so when we think in this way, we are actually preparing for both birth and being alive and dying. So when you're not yet dying, then you think that Tara will protect me. And if you are dying, then you think that this is now purifying my negative karma. And so for the death, we then have the liberation by touching, and for the alive, we have the liberation by seeing mantra and so forth. So just understanding that is extremely meaningful. So please reflect in this way and recognize that even though you experience some suffering, you can actually, by thinking in this way, transform it into happiness. By thinking that suffering is actually a good thing, then your mind will become much more open and relaxed.
이제 다다 그 곰자의 고급 양요래 그 곰자의 곰자지 봐야지 롱터를 빠거든요 원미타와지 들은 양에서 하고 좀 삭시 적시 되어서 맨을 그 때문에 좀 타진다 잡을 좀 타삼들 곰자지 도시망 보여 때 강리들이 곰자지 내록 나와지 네 저번에 뒤에서는 그 답주 공부하고 나서는 추군 시선 받을 내력들이 생긴 내력들 맞아 데리고 이제 버려 생긴 내력도 오는데 그 진로신을 장에서는 내력도 나 치바공을送적지도 나 치바공을送말이지 sak지도 나 치바공을送말이지 내력 치바들이 다 추군 시선 받을 내력들 적지서 그래서 봐 디스토를 기체보는 내력들은 다 라랑 소치 척거로 머리 sak지적지들 가시를 다 짜쳐버리지 서로 파도요 내력들 랑 내력 랑 대리랑 똑같이 해지 그래서 말해 이렇게 내력지 바꿔리들랑 세면 내력들이 거기서 보나서 말인데 이제 랑인데서 이제 가리 또 잡으면서 로그를 가리 참 로그들은 좋아요 중요되니까 로스라고요. 로시와 가도 상모 당시. 로시와 만난 강요 그래지. 주디 때문에 저는 나팔 로시로 되니 내가 책으로 그래. 야 따도야 그래. 통야요 그래. 때가도 늦어요 말이지. 찾대요 그래서. 용화가에 강아지 찾대리. 그때 통주를 이전에 대봐야는데 세번 내로도 사지 좀 되지. 죽고 열면은 나들이 나쌈 뷰미 시락 알아서 아니写야요 말이지. 양을 요고 양을 미대写는데 이마도 요 미지写야 그래서. 그랬더라. 이 조지를 보면 따와지. 요바 말이 메바 말이. 그 조지를 와지. 그래서 뒤내로 때는 랑을 소리 집었지. 랑을 내로 때는 그리 가리. 딱 체니는 타래. 요바 딱은 타래. 그래와. 메바 체는 타래 잡아지. 딱 체니 중은 적만 탑사도 된다고 사지가 따래. 데렸다고 랑을 승내로 따고 그래지. 그 가리 때로밖에 sakchi 강가면서 뛰양 매참 라도 줄었어. 저 싸움도 강요 맞다. 제가 라도 셈 쳤다고. 매참들 나오시 바데 가리도 뜻다지. 때때는 라지는 나갔다고 차도 요래. 다들 또 뭐하지? 또 뭐하지? 라지사데 사오 시키 시바데 다 또만 나갔다 그래. 사람들이 그때 말이 조여매 되더니 요 미적이 조자 뭐 라가하고 미리때 셈 나갔다 그래서 얘네들이 말이 배송을 셈 나갔다 그래 하고는 대추고 롱도 봐야죠. 셈도 나갔지 뭐 추고 롱도 봐. 이 추고 주고 꺼서 몰라서 봐. 대답지 고대 이제 찍었다 되지. 이 셈들 따로 내로도 통나 가리 편거리들. 네 통나 나지님도 없어. 빼나 가바니래. 나 로드 찍어야지. 대하고는 잡을 로드 찍어야지. They got to have a chat with those. They took a lamp out of the walk out or 3 long 70 charge. 7 lamp chamber when they charge over. They charge them, they should narrow to or down the 7 lamp out of it or a touch, they touch of our heads. They tell the young day, Tom took over, not dog, dog, not dog, Malay, the song. Send it, Java means. 这话没得，这话送了没劲是，哦，到什么地是搞来了？要不然这个你来，要不然你买来，要拿到查家能送过来，这拿到了，这个拿到搞来就是，那路个打过来是，那路对了，但是说的没做过来是，是拿个到了查过来，拿到你们搞来查了，那路通常那路通常对了，这里让人查出来说那个查过来，对嘞，Quality Jata, Jata Nam to is Malari Setty, take each of it, some similar song governor Yori. The whole sent to say, Javami, Jason, Udins, or take ladies. The name Maris, the Teton lot of it. Quality Jata, or Tati, oh, Tati, we did it. We did it, or take somebody, it goes. Or take the Jardim, what the Chadam is that, the little quality. 可是那到了上电视过来，可是经济就咋查就咋说我那到意思，但我现在经济这方面这样说了问题是，生活我不他们现在起码的知道吧？大家容易打7年他就查不深，对，哦，他这就没人嘛说，他这那到了，那到这里查他们话说话来说，第7年就都过程上不通，我们那这国家就被骗个嘞，这的。甚至这样没把这个大人大过来，那到这边起码就没人忙不的嘛，说这个这样的，生活生活的呢，那到没个村，这下过什么？这两个下过了，这年路下过来的。
So now we have an opportunity to practice meditation. And so the nature of the mind that we cultivate through meditation, we realize is explained, for instance, through the scriptures and the philosophies. And here it is called the Madhyamaka middle way view. Or it is practiced through the practice lineage of blessings, where it is referred to as Mahamudra or Dzogchen. So there are many different Buddhist and different spiritual traditions in the world, many different ways of meditating. But basically, in essence, what meditation is to look at the nature of the mind. Lord Jigten Sumgyen said in the Gongchik that what is being taught by the Buddha is only the natural state of all phenomena. So that means the nature of the mind. This is what the Buddha taught. Or as Longchen Rabjam had said, there is no higher learning than to realize the nature of the mind. So he did not say that... So he said that when you realize the nature of the mind, there is no higher learning. He didn't say when you realize Dzogchen, there is no higher learning. Or he didn't say when you realize Mahamudra, there is no higher learning. He said when you realize the natural state of the mind, then there is no higher learning than that. And that's similar to what Jigten Sumgyen said. The Buddha only taught the natural state of all phenomena. So it's important to understand that. So what we need to find, to realize, is the true nature of our mind. And when you, normally when we just think about, Dzogchen, for example, Dzogchen is so precious, then the mind actually projects outward. But we should look inward at the nature of the mind. So this is what these masters really are telling us. Don't look out, look at your own mind. And so what is your own mind? The natural state. In the Samantabhadra prayer it says, there is a single ground, yet 2 paths and 2 fruitions. So what is this single ground? For example, in this world, all activities, everything is powered by electricity. All things are done with electricity. The good things and the bad things. Everything is powered by electricity. And so then if you wonder, where is this electricity? It's everywhere. It's pervading all of space. But then sometimes when certain causes and conditions come together, then there appears a lightning in the sky, and the lightning might cause a fire. And then we can see it. But then where is it now? Can we always see it? We cannot always see it. Even though we cannot always see it, it's still always all-pervasive. Naturally, it's always there. So it is really something that is, in a way, inexpressible. We can't see it, we can't think of it, we can't touch it. In the Perfection of Wisdom Heart Sutra, it says it is inexpressible in being beyond words and thoughts. It cannot be expressed by words. It can neither said to be existing, nor can it said to be non-existing. So normally when we say something, when we try to express something verbally, our speech is bound to limitations of existence and non-existence. So either we have to speak of something in an affirming way or in a negating way. There's no other way to express anything. And so the Madhyamaka or middle way view transcends both existence and non-existence and calls it inexpressible. And that is the nature of the mind. It is inexpressible beyond the extremes of eternalism and nihilism. So an eternalistic view is where we affirm things as really existing, and a nihilistic view is a view where we deny the existence of things. So the Buddhist view is said to be free from both faults, and that is the nature of the mind. It is free from these limitations of existence and non-existence. Then Tilopa said in the Ganges Mahamudra, without a single thought, decisively look at the nature of your mind. Don't think about anything at all. Just directly look at the mind. And look at what we call this I, this me. Look at this me, this mind. And when you look at it, it becomes just like space naturally. And that is what we call the empty essence. But then there's also a clear awareness that is conscious of that. You know that, my mind is just like space, it is empty. But it's something that, an experience you can't really put into words. So it is beyond existence and non-existence. But it's something you can know, you can understand. But you can't really express it in any way. So you just have this experience of a spacious experience of mind. Milarepa said that when you realize that mind and space are indivisible, then you have actualized the Dharmakaya. And the Dharmakaya, for example, is expressed as the Dharmakaya, Samantabhadra, and so forth. It is the basis of samsara and nirvana, the one basis. So what's the benefit of seeing the nature of the mind? When you see the nature of the mind, you will see that self and other do not exist. For example, self and other are just like two phones, two iPhones, for example. There's two phones, but they are both powered by the same electricity. And so then when you look at it, where is this electricity? Where's this energy? It's nowhere to be found. It's everywhere. It's all pervasive. So that's the mind, that the single basis that connects us. So in this way, when you meditate and see the nature of the mind, it becomes vast. When you see the mind, when you see non-duality, then you see the Dharmakaya. And when you experience this space-like nature, then that is what we call, you have seen the nature of the mind. When you see the space-like nature of the mind, you decide upon the view. But then we don't always see it. We see it and then it disappears again, because the mind again becomes obscured by thoughts. When Milarepa said, and this is a song from the 100,000 Songs, that when you cling to the mind possessing characteristics, when actually the mind is unborn, that is a grasping to a concrete existence. So either we think that something really exists, sometimes we think that things do not exist. So we think either it's true or it's not true. But when you transcend that, let's look at the nature of the mind, and then all these feelings will just go away and the mind becomes like space. So whatever thoughts and afflictions arise, and if you just rest in the natural state of the mind, then just naturally it is like an ice block melting. So then the second line of Milarepa's song is when we cling to the samsara that actually has, to a root of samsara which actually has no root, that is just a deluded thought in the mind. So these two lines are actually very important for your meditation. So the first one is when you cling to the characteristics of a mind that is actually unborn, that is clinging to a true existence. Basically, it is a doubtful mind. And then secondly is when you cling to samsara having a basis that actually has no basis, that is a deluded thought. So that is to think that something is real. For example, if you like it, you think I want it. And if you don't like it, then you think I don't want it. And so you cultivate thoughts of attachment and aversion. You create some kind of characteristic, some kind of reality to the samsaric appearances, which actually is nothing else but your own deluded thought. So in this way, when you think about these two lines, then you can actually it's very beneficial for your meditation practice. So do not cling at the mind as having any characteristics. Don't think of anything in terms of being real or unreal or affirming or negating. When you think something is real, this is how it is, then that's also just a thought that leads to more thoughts of attachment and aversion, which perpetuates samsara. Read these two lines by Milarepa because they will really benefit your meditation. So, in essence, the first line means realize the unborn nature of the mind. That when you meditate, you just look directly without entertaining any thoughts of the past or anticipating the future. You look directly at the essence of the mind, without a single thought whatsoever. And when you see this thought-free mind, and that is the nature of the mind. So now look at where is this I, where is this me, where is it this me really? It's not the body, so where is that me, this I in the mind? So now in the meditation, try to look at that, try to find this I. So now when Rinpoche rings the bowl, the ringing bowl, you hear this sound and you think, oh, now I heard the sound. And so maybe say, oh, Rinpoche, did you hear it too? And then you say, oh, yes, I heard it too. Oh, yes, I heard it too. Who is hearing it? And so you think it's like your body hearing it. But what about the mind? So the body is just like an empty house or like a guest house. The body is not who you really are, and that's something you can understand. But then what about the mind that hears that? Look at the mind. When you look, it becomes like space, and that is emptiness. But there's also clear consciousness, and that is what we call clarity. So this is the nature of mind, which is this unified state of clarity and emptiness.
쌀, 똥, 성적 가려지는 쌀, 똥만이 카카 말이지. 쌀아, 그런 람진이 똥 말이지. 람진이 똥만 심시 시바 쌀었지. તે 그런 똥 말이지. 똥만 빼 남가리. 샘 남가다 그래. 놀러들이 샘 남가다 하고들이 하고 요래지.
So we say the unified state of clarity and emptiness. So what does this unified state mean? It means that emptiness and clarity are not separate. It means that the nature of clarity is emptiness. So the clear consciousness, the knowing of your awareness, the essence of this awareness, the nature of your own awareness is empty. And an example of emptiness is the sky, space. So in brief, you should have a clear conscious awareness of your own mind being like space. That encapsulates clarity and emptiness.
接下来由上师带领我们念诵愿文，因为在 Zoom 的会议室上无法以藏文和中文一起合诵，因此这一次将全程由上师领诵藏文，只属于殊胜的机缘。但上师一直希望大家能够知晓、了解愿文中的含义，所以待会会在 Zoom 同时放上愿文的字幕，其中包含藏音与汉文的翻译，请大家以画面上显示的中文字幕跟随上师念诵愿文。
大家不讲呢，我到最初上七八的蓝色会有嘞，然后的老的这个有嘞，这些底下的爬的，最多把这压人啊，这炸弹样的，这爬面样多么沉重有嘞，那多他这带着的吃到烂的这里，让车上热死了的这里，那多个方面啊的，那车上热的。
So you heard the sound of the singing bowl, and you thought, now I heard it. So this thought instantaneously, momentarily arises. Now I heard it. So if you don't pay attention to that thought and you just let it be, then together with the sound disappearing into emptiness, also your thoughts disappear into emptiness, just like a wave on water dissipating. And this is what we call the liberation upon arising. So if you just let whatever arises, whatever thoughts and so on arise, if you just let it all be, this is what we call the natural liberation of all arising. Or the natural arising and natural liberation.
san je ton nam khai sa ve cha ve se wa jin sem ba jin re se la so de o ma ne be me o re 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 ge wa de ye nya da ge re se wang zhe jie ne zhuo wa jie jiang ma lü ba de ye sa la ge ba yu今天是往这去吧的，咱们人要过的差呢，像男人去没把真的，搞得你今天这个太阳我差要来着。
So we just supplicated to Lord Avalokiteshvara. And so what it really means is that, for example, when you think day and night, if you think may everyone in this world be happy, then you actually are very close to Avalokiteshvara or Chinrezig.
这里这个人话到大把差有那样，这几个当年你让人着，今天这个上这这个差有嘞。대외的今天是没办法的，这甚至他们这东西讨个有的最大的。
So even though the Dharmakaya always pervades all of space, the empty nature also possesses a nature of compassion. And that is what is shown by Chinrezig's many eyes. It is that his love for all sentient beings pervades everywhere. So he always sees all sentient beings.
这当出个难怪就是差别的哈高了的，这上这这个差别吧哈高了嘛的，这个这话今天呢，哦，他他妈的你马个不是这样的，今天这比太有差的吧哈高多个的，这个这马个吃的就有的，懂得。
So generally we might understand that the Dharmakaya is all-pervasive like space, but often what we don't understand is that compassion actually pervades also just like space, all of space. And so that is why I changed the wording in the Chinrezig's application to you, the one endowed with love, with all-pervasive love, because he loves all beings like a mother loves her child. And in this way, Chinrezig is so close to them. And so because this is how I understand his true nature, how we can understand his true nature. That's for this reason I have changed the words in that supplication prayer to the one endowed with love.
Sanjo Senjo Rinpoche Maje Bana Jije Jiba Nyamba Meba Yang Gong Le Gong Ze Bewa Yo 삼제 내가 타도가 르보체 찍고도 삼제리 소타 차를 요 삼히제 제냐 대단하게 우리 배송나무 톱송제 막 셀마보 톱송 삼제도 가공식거래 삼제 소타 차를 삼제 제냐 다티 노르제지.
So love is the only precious jewel, temporarily and ultimately. For example, even if you cultivate love for just a small little animal, you should think that today I have gained great merit. Because love has arisen within me. It is like I have received a lot of precious gold, and therefore you should recognize that and rejoice in that. So if you only cultivate love for a little animal, that is your precious jewel.
Kodok demba samsi de una muso pe ta ni o cha de re samte me na zuko nyam de una ta rin bore ta te muso ta ni o re chama de da yo ma re de ina do ma thong yang chwa kha kha yo re de penchen yi ga de da si de le so yi de ko de ma o te wa chi so da de no kong le jo ba de da ge yi ni sam ma bo ta ji chi da ba ta ma tu ji che ge ngo chi na.
And I'm saying many Dashidele to you, my Dharma friends who have joined on the live stream today. I'm so happy to have seen you all. And because we have love, if there's love, even if the body is far away, the mind really is together. And especially when one sees the ultimate truth, not only is one together, one is actually non-dual, indivisible. But even on the relative level, if there is love, then we are close to each other. If there is no love, then even though the body is together, the mind is actually very far. But today we are together, we are very close, and anyways we are beyond meeting and parting. And however, when we see each other's faces, then a very special feeling does arise. So many dashi deles to you, and also I would like to thank the Dharma Center who had organized this event, and all the spiritual teachers and Sangha members. So many dashi deleg, and thank you to all of you for organizing this virtuous program.
非常感恩仁波切带着我们禅修，还有给我们这么慈爱的这个引导。那现在呢，让我们大家一起来向仁波切献哈达，然后呢，与深深的感恩仁波切长久住世，常转法轮。
长久住世，常转法轮。长久住世，常转法轮。
罗哇提索，拉玛仁波切，
仁波切是常转法轮。拉玛仁波切，仁波切龙奶，
常法轮法体安康。
仁波切，身体健康。
仁波切，
事业妹，
非常仁波切常转法轮。谢。扎西德勒，扎西德勒，扎西德勒。
我切先生是不离纯净师。
具体是什么？俺三姐姐都家里都把学的，俺三女姐过来，具体是这把的，具体就是什么？俺居然上过结过来的，俺家里都把学的，俺三姐姐都的，三姐跑那他个的，俺居然上过结过的，实际上结过的三姐这具体就是这把的，我说是这就是这把跑的的，你那弄么的的，说那通么的过这没把的。
Long life, long life, 扎西德勒。
好，
谢谢嘉
不好意思
琪。
大家，那
请立语翻译请大家安静请立语翻译刚才仁波切所说的，来，请翻译。
So regarding the begging bowl Rinpoche is holding, he says when you see the begging bowl, then you should recollect the 3 jewels, and anyone who has received the refuge vow can use such a begging bowl. So when you recollect the 3 jewels, think that this is the begging bowl of the Buddha, and what did the Buddha teach? The Buddha taught the Dharma, which is love and compassion, and then if you are following the Buddha and practicing love and compassion, you are a Sangha. So whenever you see such a bowl, you should think that I have received a refuge vow, I'm a follower of the Buddha, and that means therefore I must cultivate love for sentient beings and compassion. So when you think in such a way, then you are recollecting the Sangha, and you are the Sangha. So such a begging bowl actually is a way to recollect the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. And also it is a great merit because it is said that because of its qualities, if it is just filled with water, then it benefits anyone who sees it, and that water in there actually becomes medicinal. It transforms into nectar.
谢谢你们龙啦！
谢谢仁波切，谢谢。
我们
谢谢仁波切，谢谢波切 Long Life， 波切谢谢。
感恩切。
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for accepting such urgent request, so we can have blissful teaching and from Garchen Rinpoche. Thank you, Ina, for English translation that will release to public later. Thank you, Billy. Thank you for providing wonderful live stream. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rinpoche. Rinpoche 长久住世，长展法轮。Rinpoche 谢谢Rinpoche，谢谢 Long Life， 感恩Rinpoche，谢谢Rinpoche。感谢大家的参与，我们期待下次与上师在线上相会，并且一起禅修。最后我们以4句偈来做回向。
今日法会圆满，谢谢大家。